Okay. Okay. I guess we're ready to roll. Welcome everybody to the Friday night What Now What meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Dan, I'm an alcoholic. Could you please silence your cell phones if you happen to have your ringer on? And can we open this meeting with a moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, followed by the Serenity Prayer, which I believe will be on the screen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We're an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which means anyone, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, can attend. Open meetings have long been a vital source for anyone who wants to learn more firsthand information about the AA Fellowship. We're here every Friday evening at 5:30 till 6:30, and all are welcome to attend. Tonight is this group's first anniversary, which I think is a really, really cool thing. So there's some special stuff in store. I found out about this meeting from some people at another meeting I go to about 10 or 11 months ago. And I said, this sounds interesting. I'll give it a try. And it is a unique format here, and I've been around for a long, long time and I've never seen anything like this. So, I'd really like to say, Dave, thanks for spearheading a meeting like this. It's something that I think, we've grown from 8 or 9 people, I think almost a year ago, or when I started coming, to now we're getting ready to have to expand the room, 25, 26, 30 people. So it's a great thing. And I know a lot of the family members who come to this meeting in order to find out more about this disease and how to deal with alcoholism for the people that they love. They've actually said, we really look forward to coming to this meeting. This, they look forward to it all week. A lot of couples have said that to us. So I think that's a great thing. So again, it's an exciting night tonight. It really shows the power of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm really looking forward to tonight. So enjoy, everybody, and I'll turn it over to B.
Good evening, everybody. My name is B. I'm a non-alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thanks, B.
Mike, I hand it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Mike. Just to jump on the bandwagon, also, I came to this meeting about a year ago also, and one of the nuns asked a question. So do you guys ever, really enjoy going to meetings? Are there meetings you look forward to and don't? And I emphatically raised my hand and said, yeah, I actually had a long day. I traveled to and from Rockford that day. And absolutely, I kind of scheduled my entire day for the end of my day, which was for the meeting. And Mary and I've been coming, I think, the majority of the time, and it really spawns a lot of really good conversation for us, not only following the meeting, but throughout the week. And it's been very good for the two of us for opening and keeping open our lines of communication. So we really appreciate it every week. I'm here to read how it works. So this is how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Number one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Number four, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number six, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number seven, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Number eight, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number nine, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter 2, the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if we were sought.
Thanks, Mike.
On a side note, by the way, for the nons, sometimes in meetings, when it comes to the spot where it says, maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles, we are not saints. Sometimes somebody in the audience will shout out, "What's the point?" Because the next line is, the point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. Just a heads up for the nons.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Mark.
This is the anonymity statement. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of our program and reminding us to place principles before personalities. Therefore, who you see here and what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Good evening, I'm Sue, I'm an alcoholic. And I'm here to tell you about the seventh tradition. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. For anyone who would like to support tonight's meeting, there are red coffee cans on either side, so feel free. I'm the treasurer for Friday night, so I want to have a good showing tonight, so I would appreciate your dollars or whatever else you'd like to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
She's gonna keep the microphone.
Dave doesn't need it. No, I don't actually need it, but I am wondering if I am the next one up here. I am, okay. I'm Dave, I'm an alcoholic. Welcome, everybody. The primary purpose of this Friday night meeting is to help family and friends in our community get to know that sobriety can be achieved if the alcoholic reads, learns the big book, and works the 12 steps, and then attends meetings. It also is to help those in need to receive resources, information, encouragement, contacts, and more. We do have our recovery room. It's in the back corner of the building, and there are big books and lots of information. So if anybody needs any, feel free to go back and grab that. We'd also like to give special thanks to Faith Lutheran Church and all that they have done in giving us a room, supporting the recovery program. Amen. Is there any, so are there any, can you raise your hand if you're a Faith Lutheran member? Thanks you guys very much. So this is the participation part. 30 years or more of sobriety. Can you raise your hand? How about 20 years or more? $10 years or more? Show of hands for 5. How about 1? How many are in their first year of sobriety? And is there anybody here that this is your very first AA meeting ever in life? Bill, back in the corner. All right. Hey. Bill's a non. I mean, I know Bill's a very good friend of mine. So Jeff. So thank you, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Lee, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 7th of 2000. I'm blessed because of God and this program. I'm sober today. I got to start this meeting. I got to start this with an amends to the group and to David, because I'm David's sponsor. 12 years ago, after Dave got out of treatment, we sit next to each other every Monday morning for the last 12 years. He came out of treatment. He goes, Jeff, I got a great idea. I go, what is it? He goes, we need to start a meeting for families to help them too, because they don't know what to do once we get out of treatment thing. I said, David, that's a dumb idea. I tell him every 3 years he'd ask me again. I go, David, they're earthlings. Why would normal people need to come back to a meeting? I said, we have to come back over and over for the rest of our lives. But normal people, they know we're the problem. They're going to come, they're going to hear that we're the problem. We're going to tell them we're the problem. And then they're not going to come back again. So why start a meeting for them? So I owe this group an amends. I owe you all an apology, because I had no idea that this would turn out and it would be successful. It just didn't make sense to me. So there's so much for Jeff. So much for my bright thinking. So that was the first thing I want to do, is tell it myself. Next thing I'm going to do is I want to introduce a lovely young lady that I've known for 10 years now. Her name is Missy. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I met Missy. I came through treatment centers. I went to 6 different treatment centers. I was in 5 of them for 30 days. My last treatment center I was in for 7 months. They wouldn't let me out because I would not stay sober. I couldn't stay sober. By the time I was 19 to the time I was 40, the only time I was sober, I drank every day. And the only time I was sober was when I was institutionalized in a treatment center. I just could not stop drinking. So I found Alcoholics Anonymous in my last treatment center. I knew it. They introduced me to it repeatedly. I just wouldn't stick around. I would never go past step 3 was my problem. I would never evaluate myself and find out why I was drinking. So anyway, the reason for me bringing that up is the fact that I do my service work at treatment centers. So when I give back, I go give back at treatment centers. We're all supposed to do that in AA. That's what we do. I don't go to the jails because I didn't go to jail, so I feel like I wouldn't be able to relate with them. But treatment centers, I know what they're all doing. I know what they're not doing, and I know why they're back again, because they're not working the steps. And so that's my place, and that's where I like to be. Another thing is I gotta tell you is I got a place in my heart for moms that get sober. My mom was an alcoholic, and I gotta tell you, when I see a mom in this program get sober, the trajectory of that family changes so much by that mom being sober. It's just it's undescribable. And to me, moms that get sober hold a special place in my heart. So anyway, I know Missy's sponsor. Missy's sponsor and I did Bridge Group for 19 years at Central DuPage Hospital at their behavioral health center, their treatment center. For 19 years, we were there every Thursday at 11 o'clock for a Bridge Group. And the Bridge Group is we have a panel of 4 or 5 people that sit in front of the patients in the treatment center. And for 1 hour, we answer questions back and forth. You want anything you want to ask. How many days do I have to stay in the program? Where do I find a sponsor? Which house is the home group in? I mean, just every question you could ever think of about AA. And we would answer back, trying to encourage them, because we know that 99% of the people that come out of treatment and don't come to a 12-step program fail. So we're trying to encourage them by answering their questions. Well, about 13 years in, Missy comes through. Missy comes through the treatment center at BHS. And here's this mom. She woke up me and Sue. We never seen anything like her. Here's one. I got a million stories about Missy because we sat next to each other for 6 years. She came and we got her on the Bridge Group. I told Sue V, I said, we got to get this young lady on the Bridge Group. She makes these moms in here just perk up. She's got answers. She generates questions. We've got to get her on Bridge Group. We had her on Bridge Group with us for 6 years. And when you sit there every Thursday for an hour with people, you get to learn a lot about them, because the neat thing about Bridge Group is you get to answer a question to a patient, and then while you're answering, the other 4 people are thinking, what I'm missing, and then they'll fill in. It just rolls. It's a very special relationship. COVID is what stopped it. So after COVID, everything changed. But so anyway, one of the stories I'll tell about Missy is, so we go into the treatment centers, all AA brings these meetings, and all these ladies come in, and Missy would get their phone numbers from them. And Missy would go back to her room and call them. Well, people just didn't. They were always waiting. Oh, I'll call that person when I get out of treatment. I'll call them. Well, anyway, up by the nurse's station, there's this board, and it's got Missy pink notes stamped all over it, sticking up there, because these ladies were calling Missy back. And all the other patients going, why does she have all these messages? Well, because she makes the phone calls. Missy's reaching out and asking for help. That's the biggest thing. Alcoholics have the hardest time asking for help. Missy was doing it when she was in treatment. She started running this program. I mean, she started working a program right away when she was in treatment. She picked up Sue couldn't ask for a better sponsor. And then I got the blessing of being with her on Bridge Group for about 6 years. And I tell you what, it was a pure joy every Thursday. I miss it. So anyway, I can tell you a bunch of stories. I got some funny ones about Missy, but I'll save them because I don't know what story she's going to tell today. So Missy, without any further ado. Before I get teary-eyed.
I was gonna say, you're gonna get me crying.
I know.
All right,
Okay. Whichever one you want.
okay. You're gonna make me make a choice, then I need to get on my knees first. Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, hi everyone, my name is Missy and I am an alcoholic. Hi, first of all, thank you so much, Jeff, for reaching out and asking me. What an honor and a privilege it is to speak at this meeting, and a meeting directed to the families, right? It holds a very special, oh, I got a microphone on me. Families are how I got here. Families are what made me who I am today. Families were something that I almost single-handedly completely destroyed. And now today, family is the number one most special thing in my life today. And so to be able to have this opportunity is It's very special. And so I honor that. And I thank you so much for inviting me to speak. Jeff, I had forgotten about the messages, right? So interesting story. Just a quick, right? I need to qualify myself. I am not a non, I am a full-fledged member of Alcoholics Anonymous. My sobriety date is March 1st of 2014. And so if you think about it, here we are just a few weeks away from March 14th. Those of you who are alcoholics, those of you who are family members of alcoholics, you know exactly where Missy was 10 years ago, right? She was broken. I was broken. I was in, and my life was completely dominated and ruled by alcohol. In this month of February, I don't know that I had a sober breath for at least the last 2-3 weeks. I tried on Super Bowl Sunday. It didn't work so well. It really didn't. I actually had to leave the party we were at because I was just destroying water bottles, which was all I was going to drink that day. And I was just crushing them because I was restless. I was irritable. I was discontent. I needed the ease and comfort that comes from taking that first drink. And my pores were seeping it, and I had to exit myself because all I was doing was building up anger and resentment at every person in that party. And so, the other thing that was happening at that time was you know how they say a family system is, kind of like can be a well-oiled machine, right? And everybody has a purpose and a place in it. And when it's functioning really well, right, things go well, things are magical. Everybody has, their roles, and we go and we grow and we do. And my beautiful machine, if you stood about 20 feet from it, it looked beautiful. Right? It had all the pretty parts. Everything was working. If you got closer, you would have noticed that I was using chewing gum, duct tape, Scotch tape, magnets that really probably didn't work, but I liked that they had sparkles on them, right? To try to hold everything together, right? So don't come too close because you'll see just how broken and destroyed my family really was. Because as I said, in those last few weeks, I could not take a sober breath. I could not function without putting alcohol in my system. It wasn't physically possible for me at that stage of my disease. And so, a beautiful, wonderful thing happened with my family. And that was simply that my daughter went away to college. My oldest daughter went away to college. The interesting thing about demise is when you are living in it, you don't recognize it. When you get away from it, it suddenly becomes very clear that something isn't right. And she had gotten away from the family system. She didn't know what was going on. And she came back and she went, something's not right. Something's not right. So she did the wonderful thing that any oldest child would do, and that is they try to fix, manage, and control everything. Because I was trying to fix, manage, and control everything, but not doing it very well. And so what she did is she went to my husband at the time and said, something's wrong with mom. And he said, yeah, your mom's overstressed because you kids are driving her crazy. I trained him well. And so she was like, oh, okay, but I don't think that's it. And so as opposed to giving up and just going back to college, she did a little investigation. And that beautiful, wonderful angel of mine followed me around the house. And she figured out that glass of wine that was on the counter was a decoy. Because you see, people would come in and say, "Are you drinking?" I said, "No, I'm just having a glass of wine. I'm not drinking, I'm just having a glass of wine. One glass of wine. Now, let's not talk about the vodka that's under the sink. Let's not talk about the vodka that's in the laundry room, in the closets, upstairs in the bathroom, in the basement, behind the cat box. We're not going to talk about that because that's not happening, right? Until you recognize something isn't right." She followed me around. She followed my statue. And then she did something unbelievable. She went and told my mother. Here's the wonderful thing about my mother. She is the wife of an alcoholic in recovery. She is not an Al-Anon, so she lives with the cloak of denial still over her eyes. And she said, "Oh no, I'm sure your mom is just overstressed. There's a lot going on. You're in college. Your sister is challenging her. Your brother, he's crazy. No, your mom is just fine." Love my mother. She wanted to go to my father, but he was busy, right? He's off. He's at his meetings. He's running businesses. He's doing his thing. So she went to the next person down the list, which was my oldest brother. And my oldest brother all of a sudden went, "Oh, that cloak of denial, the light is shining on. And all of a sudden, I am viewed with the lens of clear reality. And all of the accidents, all of those trips to the hospital and the ER that I have rationalized and justified to every person that it wasn't alcohol that caused that, they now see the truth. And with that, the family that I was destroying and ripping apart, my oldest daughter, once she realized what I was doing, she was terrified and she was pissed. She was angry because she knew I was driving and taking her brother and sister places. She knew I was a danger not only to the family system, but to society as a whole. And so when that cloak of denial finally came off and they saw what was going on, my brother knew, intuitively knew, we need to tread cautiously because where I think she might be in this disease is a very dangerous place. And that's exactly what an alcoholic is. Our book talks about it. An alcoholic in the cups is an unloving creature. We can be volatile. We have incredible angst, right? And so one must be approached cautiously. And so what he did is he staged an intervention. And I will never forget when my husband, who was coached on how to approach me to attend my own intervention. My husband is a power lifter, big guy. He played football in college. He is not small in any sense of the word. And when he approached me, he was backing up. He was afraid of what and how I might react or respond, and he didn't even want the knives in the kitchen. Okay, so, and here's where I will tell you, right? Before I met Jeff Lee, here is where I was in this stage of this disease. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. I knew I had to drink, and I had to drink ingest alcohol at least every 10 minutes, or I knew what was going to happen. I knew how ugly, how bad I was going to be shaking, and I knew what that felt like. And I'd been through that a couple of times. It was not pretty, and I didn't like it. And so by ingesting alcohol at sporadic intervals, I was going to be okay. Was I enjoying my drinking? No. I was being driven by the alcohol. It was a necessity in my life at that time. So when he approached me and I was like, what is going on? He goes, we think you have a problem and we'd really like to get you help. And I was like, I have a lot of problems. Which one are we talking about? You're drinking. And it was at that moment I knew I had a choice. I knew I could run. I knew I had credit cards, I had a car, I could buy a plane ticket, and I could run, and I could take my alcoholism with me, and I could escape all of the problems as I thought that they existed. I could run away and start over and start fresh. That was a choice. But what about my 3 beautiful children? What about the family that was so important to me? Was I just going to leave them? Well, or was I going to accept the help that was being offered? It was a choice. And I said, all right, I'll give it a try. What do I have to lose? What is so good about how I am existing at this moment? What is so good about that? Absolutely nothing. So I said, all right, let me think about it. And I went away. And in that moment, I knew it was over. I didn't have to do this anymore. I didn't have to continue. And for some very strange reason, unbeknownst to me, I was compelled to empty out all of my vodka bottles. That was silly. That was God. That was my higher power saying it's over. It's done. And so I went to my husband and I said, okay, I will attend my intervention. I have one question. He's like, okay, what's the question? What does one wear? That was really the most important, because remember, my family system, duct tape, gum, right? I'm gluing it together. I got to look good. I wasn't good on the inside, but I wanted to look good on the outside because I didn't want you to know how bad I was hurting, how empty I was, right? And so I did. And so I walked into my intervention, which was a lovely catered affair. It really was. I was like, oh, how special I am. You know, there's nothing like, you know, treating an alcoholic in their disease and making them feel special. Oh, I ate it up. I absorbed it. I sat on my hands. I was shaking so bad. I was a mess. I went into BHS. They asked me all of the questions. I passed without studying. I really didn't think I was going to be asked to stay, but I needed to stay. And I was given this ultimatum. You can either stay with us or we're calling the ambulance. You're going right to the ER. You are not safe. You are not safe. And I was like, me? Really? No. And again, right? And why did they think that? Why did they know that? Because for the very first time in my life, I was honest. I was honest to the person that asked the questions. I wasn't going to hide anything anymore. I was done. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so that's what I did. I was honest. I qualified. I got myself a room with a lovely plastic bed, pillowcase, no phone, no drawstrings, nothing. You know what? And that was the absolute best place for me to be, because there I could safely detox. But here was one problem. I went in, yes, with an alcohol problem. I also have a thinking problem, right? I am delusional. I rationalize and justify everything to make it suit me, not anybody else, me first. Selfish, self-centered. That is the root of my problems. So if I'm in here, how do I make myself look good so I don't have to stay very long? That was my thinking when I first walked into BHS. Now, yes, as Jeff told you, there are lovely people. There are amazing meetings that go into the treatment centers. And I was like, I'll never forget the first time I was checked in on a Saturday. Sunday is the big AA meeting there, and all of the people that I was impatient. They were like, if it's your first meeting, you have to stand up and introduce yourself. Oh, I know, I can't do that. I have too much anxiety. And everybody is like fretting about this. And I was like, what, are you kidding? They just want your first name. And they were like, would you have to say you're an alcoholic? I was like, okay, I have all of these bands on my arms, you know? And so I'll never forget, because my roommate was so full of angst, when they said, is there anybody here at their first meeting? I was like, yeah, right? Here's where my alcoholism just like shone like a shiny star, right? So they said, raise their hand. Oh, yes. Could you please announce yourself? I stand up. My name is Missy, and apparently I'm an alcoholic with all the attitude, right? Because as you see, I have a thinking disease, and apparently, can you believe I'm here? What, me? Somebody who looks like me? Yeah, I needed to be humbled. I needed the message to get driven into me, and there was only one way that it was going to get through my thick, delusional thinking. And the only way that was for God to plant in my little treatment milieu, the people that I was in treatment with, a mother who also had 3 children. Interesting, but her children were babies, same age gaps as my children. And so right there, she had been to treatment many times before. She knew what to do. She knew what to say. She knew how to present herself. And I needed to do what she did because we're both mothers, right? But she has babies. And so I can coach her through the baby stuff because I'm good at that. I can give all the advice in the world because I'm a mother. And so she and I got close, and I watched her very, very closely. And I thought, this is exactly what I need. This is how I'm going to get out. I'm going to do what she does. I'm going to say what she says. And I'm watching. The problem is when you are in treatment and you're following the guidance of another person in treatment, you don't really get the best advice. You would think maybe I'd pay attention to what they were saying in bridge group, but no, I was looking at what she was writing down. Oh, okay. Facebook, can we look at Facebook? And so I wasn't paying a lot of attention until this happened. I was a good student, right? I did all the assignments they asked me to. I got little gold stars on all of my papers. And then I got a free pass to go out from treatment. My daughter came home from college. She found out that mom could come out, and she wanted to take me out, take me to a movie. You would think I would be honored. This girl who was mad at me, who didn't want to see me again, who had realized that I was single-handedly destroying our family, wanted to come and see how I was doing and support me in my recovery. No, I had the attitude because you see my friend in treatment, she had a car and she could go out by herself. And I was like, oh, I'm a loser. I have to go out with my teenage daughter. How am I going to make this look cool? Well, guess what happens when somebody who has a sick thinking disease leaves a treatment center on a free pass by themselves? That was the message I needed to hear and the message I needed to see. Because what happened then is she went out and just got the little bottles. When you walk back into treatment after you just had the little bottles, they don't want you back. You are beyond what they are capable of being able to help and support. And remember, she's been in treatment before. Her husband said, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. I have 3 babies I am trying to take care of. I can't do this with her anymore. I heard that. I saw that. And I knew exactly where my sick thinking was going to take me. It was going to take me right back to the drinking, and I too was going to lose my family. That was exactly the message I needed. It was like my higher power slapped me across the face, cracked the delusion, right? That I was strong, that I could do it. And I was driven to my knees in a full and honest surrender. Right then, right there. And I said, God help me. I can't do this. I am going to screw everything up. And I knew it. And here's the beautiful thing that happens when you have a surrender in a treatment center. They pick you up and AA comes in. And when I was ready, the teachers appeared. And I said, what do I do? And my sponsor said, you get numbers from the women who come into this facility and you call them. I took direction. I made phone calls. I got women to call me back. Oh, the nurses were like, what are we, Missy's answering service? Because I knew I did not need what the other people in treatment had. I needed what you had. I needed to completely clean house, clean my thinking, and completely change everything about how I was living. I needed to surrender, and I needed the steps, and I needed help, and I needed support. And so I got busy, right? And so I knew that this meeting was all about the family. And so I glanced through the family after. It's a beautiful chapter in this book, and I'm sure a lot of you have read through it. The thing that spoke to me that I want to talk about, I've got too many bookmarks in here, right? There it is. Okay. Is at the very end of the chapter, there are 3 little mottos which are apropos. Here they are. First things first, right? So when I was in treatment and I knew I couldn't do it myself, I had to put first things first, which means I had to put my recovery first because I was told anything that I put in front of my recovery, I am going to lose. What does that mean, my family? I need to take care of my family. No, if you don't take care of your recovery first, you are going to lose your family. You saw that. Ugh. And so what happened is I knew I needed to reframe how I was showing up in my family. And so it was bit by bit, I needed to pull back the duct tape. I needed to pull out the chewing gum. I needed to get things down to see where the cracks in the foundation were. And do you know what bubbled up to the surface? I had a daughter who was dying inside because she had a mother who was drowning in alcoholism when she was screaming for help. And I was trying to duct tape her back together. That doesn't work very well. So I had to work on myself, and then I had to put first things first. I can't fix, manage, or control her at all. I had to seek out help for her and get myself out of the way. I had to work on my recovery so that I could get stronger to support her in hers. I had to put first things first. And when I stepped out of the way, I allowed others to do for her so that she could learn to do for herself, right? I had to get out of the center. I had to stop thinking I was so darn important. I'm not, right? But the work that I do, the drive that I had for working through the steps of recovery allowed the rest of the family to do what they needed to do, right? I had to allow my recovery to be my number one priority because then everything else becomes first rate. And it truly did, right? The other thing that it says here is to live and let live. What does that mean? That means I can no longer try to manage what other people are doing. They make their own choices. They make their own decisions, right? And sometimes it's not about me. Live and Let Live allowed me, through the grace of my higher power, through the power in the fellowship, through my sponsor, it allowed me to walk through with grace and dignity the end of a marriage. I had to allow my husband at the time to live the life that he wanted to live. And together we were not working. We were broken. We were broken a long time ago. Alcohol was just fooling us, right? We were not healthy together. And so by allowing him to live and let others go, I got out of the center and things are so much better, right? I allowed everybody to have their own path. I don't need to have to create the path for them. Oftentimes as parents, we think we have to direct and guide our children. No, they have their own higher powers. Let them find their path. Unbelievable things started to happen for my children when I got out of the way. When I got out of the way, my daughter, who was so broken, rose, spread her wings, and flew all the way to Oklahoma. But that's where she needed to go, to get away from the sick and to believe in herself, right? She needed to do that. She needed to follow her dream and follow her star. And I had to allow her to live and let live. And now she's living her best life down in Disney World, right? She has followed her passion and her dream, right? I couldn't do that for her. She had to do it for herself. Same with my son, right? I had to allow him to explore and figure out what the path was for him. He wanted to please his parents. He wanted to make right decisions. He had an oldest sister who was up in medical school, and he had another one that was in Oklahoma. And he was like, okay, I'm going to be a veterinarian. And I was like, really? That's your passion? And what beautiful thing happened was he came to me one day and said, you know what, Mom? This doesn't feel right for me. This doesn't feel like it's what I want to do. And I said, then figure out what you want to do and pursue it. You have my full support. Well, what do I tell Dad? I said, figure out what you want first, and then you will know exactly what to tell Dad. Live and let live. I have to let each one of my children live their own life, and I just get to support. I get to honor, and I get to respect and admire the individuals they are today, right? If I was still living in my alcoholism and not applying these principles, it wouldn't be looking so good, right? They'd probably be angry, full of resentment, and really mad at me because I would not have made the choices that they have chosen in their lives. But they are thriving and they are surviving, right? And then the final one is easy does it. Easy does it. As Jeff said, right, in front of Bridge Group, I get full of passion for this program because it gave me a life that I would have never imagined possible. Never imagined possible. What does that look like? So I told you I walked through a divorce. And so then it was, what am I going to do? I had been a stay-at-home mom, right, for 23 years. I had dropped out of college. I just wanted to be the best mom possible. That was my calling. And now my children are off and spreading their wings. What is left for me? What am I going to do? I knew exactly what I needed to do, but would I have the courage to do it? And that was to go back to school. I'm 47 years old, going back to school. They're all in their teens and 20s. I did it. I did it. One class at a time, one moment at a time. I walked from achieving my associate's degree at the junior college level up into a bachelor's. Then I had to go pursue a master's. One class at a time, one moment at a time, right? And then my higher power is truly the God of humor. He dangled the carrot and said, I think you need double masters. So I did, right? And there were times where I was lost, I was confused, I was overwhelmed, right? Easy does it. I had to be patient. I had to be patient with myself. I had to remember God has me here for a reason, right? And so I did. I walked through and I earned a master's in social work and a master's in business administration. And now I have the honor and privilege of being able to work with families in a professional basis. I work with adolescents who are struggling, and I work with their families. Parents are 50% of the treatment process. They have to come to groups. They have to learn the skills, right? I couldn't have done that if I was, I have to pull back. I have to know that there is a process and I can't push anybody unless they're ready, unless they're willing. And so I have to take it easy myself. I have to absorb what you guys offer. I have to sit and I have to know that miracles are unfolding every day on my journey in recovery. So I don't know that I have much else to share with you guys. It truly has been a gift. And like I said, right, today, although my family system and machine is scattered across the country, we are still working. We are working in a beautiful way to support each other as individuals with respect and with love. And I am truly honored to be a part of that system. Right? I am just one of many. And I thank you for everything you guys have done to work with the families and to allow me to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Missy.
So we're gonna have, I'm not sure what time it is. Oh, yeah, you guys a little time, 6:30. So, thank you very much, Missy. Sure appreciate it. Questions for Missy or for anyone? I mean, part of the Friday night group is it's always on a topic. So tonight we can have Missy as our topic.
Oh,
So if there's some questions or some dialogue.
don't do that to my ego.
So we have a couple of microphones in the back. I mean, does anybody got anything that they would? This group is not bashful. I know that. Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
I was just curious, what parts of the big book do you consistently go back to reread?
Consistently go back to and reread. I am always in How It Works. Always. A fun fact for me, because I have this thinking disease, when I was early in recovery, my brain wanted to take me to, dangerous places. And so what I learned was when I memorized How It Works, I could put that in my brain and it would shift my thinking, right? And so by doing that, not to do it as a look at me, I memorized it, but really as a tool, right? And so for me, there are different aspects of How It Works that will then speak to me. Am I working that principle? And have I done that step recently? Right. And so I really base a lot of my day-to-day work on How It Works. I have the honor and privilege right now of working with a new woman. And I actually almost pulled out, we are in the prefaces right now and going into the doctor's opinion. Powerful stuff. So when working with a newcomer, I find that really helping them identify in the early part and understanding the history of AA is really vital to understanding the power that comes in being a member of this fellowship.
Anybody else? Just a sec, Heather.
Oh, just a second. We want to hear you loud and proud.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm a non-alcoholic.
Hi, Heather.
I have a question for you. It's kind of vague, but I'm wondering if you could give like examples on the best ways to support the alcoholic.
Okay, so the best ways, and all I can speak from is my experience, right, was giving me the time and space to attend the meetings that I needed to attend, right? And to give me the time and space to go early to the meeting and stay after the meeting, right? Those are vital to the connection and the fellowship, right? That's not all it is, but that was a really important thing, and something so important that, as I told you, my children are across the country. They knew when mom comes to visit, mom finds home groups, right? And so when I would go visit them, they'd be like, "Oh, mom, what time is your meeting? We want to make sure we work around that." Right? Because that is a vital part, right? Wherever I go, I take my disease with me. So that was really important. As well as honoring the relationship with the sponsor, right? And now today for me too, my kids know that if my phone rings, there are times where I do need to step out, right, and take those calls, because those calls can be vital to me as well as to another. So just kind of having that grace with the alcoholic, recognizing that, being an active member in the fellowship is really vital to recovery. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much for the recommendations.
Okay, yeah. And just love them. Just love them, because oftentimes, depending on where they are in their recovery journey, they may not be loving themselves so much, right? And I certainly didn't. And I had to learn how to receive love back. So that was good too. Yeah, thank you.
So you said you had 3 kids.
I-
All of you.
Sounds loud.
So you have 3 kids?
I do.
I have 3, we have 3 as well. Did they react the same way, or did you get different reactions from each of them?
About what?
You and your alcoholism. You said your oldest was angry.
My oldest one, she was 19 at the time. She was angry. She was the one that was going to call the cops all the time on me. My middle daughter, I told you, she was lost in her own mental health challenges. And my son was just baffled. He was 14. He was very confused. He didn't know what was happening to mom. He was like, yeah, sometimes I wake up and mom's face down in the middle of the floor. Right?
Sleeping.
Oh, I was just sleeping. The Hawks game went late. Do you know how many times I had to Google, did the Hawks win or lose? How many times I rewatched movies over and over and over because I just couldn't get through. But yeah, and so what I think was really interesting was I don't think my children truly understood the disease of alcoholism until they came and visited me in the treatment center. And they did. And I encouraged them to learn as much as they could, to ask me all the questions that they might have, right, about understanding, because their life was gravely impacted by alcoholism, right? And what I wanted them to see was recovery, was to share, right? Because I might be the only example of the big book that they have. And I want them to see that recovery is possible, right? And so I shared a lot of what I was doing, where I was going, why I was doing it, what I was working on, why mom needed quiet time every morning, right? Why that's such an important part. And it really opened their eyes to to a world and a perception of life that I don't think they ever would have gotten if they hadn't have seen me go from where I was to where I am today, and all the work it took in between.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When you're doing your professional job today, you're working with clients, do you automatically recommend 12-step programs, or do you have to stand back and is the professional Missy different from the AA Missy? That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And it's complicated. You know, what I have found is I will share very honestly in my profession with the adolescents, especially those who struggle with addiction. I will share parts of my journey because I think it's a powerful example for them to feel like I am approachable and I get it, right? And so when I am leading the groups, I really try to encourage them to go to AA meetings. The hard thing is when you're working with a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, how do I know it's a healthy meeting that I'm advising them to go to? I love you all, but some of you aren't always very healthy. And I got babies. But what I do is I will introduce them to the big book. I will introduce them to the 12 steps, right? I will give them an introduction to what is possible, because all I know that I am doing, do I expect, we try to go for abstinence, right? We don't want you to use while you're in our program. That's necessity. You can't graduate if you're using, right? But we also follow a harm reduction model. That's very common, especially for these young kids, because you tell them no, never, and they're out the door. And then the willingness towards treatment gets shut down, right? And so all I know that my job is to plant the seed. I don't know at what time it's going to blossom, but they are going to know that they are going to meet people like me in the rooms. And those who have gone into rooms, those who have committed themselves to getting a sponsor and starting to work the steps, I see amazing things happen for them. I really do. So, you know, it's complicated it's really a kind of their individual journey and where they are. But I really try to let them know how hard I work, right, at maintaining my own recovery because of how important it is to me. So, yeah, great question. They're all great questions.
Thank you, Missy.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Well, thanks to all of you for coming this evening. We really appreciate you helping us to celebrate our first anniversary. That's really neat. So thanks for coming. If you're free on a Friday night at 5:30, we become a close family, but there's always room for one more. So I want to be faithful to extend that invitation one more time. The other thing is I want to thank Missy for doing such a great job and sharing with us this evening. Again, thanks for making our anniversary so special. As you were talking about the things you went through, Missy, just a year ago, we were starting our own journey. And it started out tough, as yours did. And but God has been good, so good through that year. And your story is unique. But as that year has unfolded, everybody's story is unique. But it's interesting when you listen, it's not so different. Everybody relates to certain things. So I want you to know that, because we struggle with that. For B, my wife and myself, we were thinking sometimes we're the only ones, you know, they're so weird and so bothered. And when you get together, you're not. It's for everybody. So thank you, Missy. Thanks so much for being with us. And
Jeff, thanks for bringing her to us too. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank Nick in the back for doing our sound as he does the church all the time. And the overheads, Nick is always faithful, and so we appreciate him so much. And those in our group who brought food for tonight, we want to thank you for your participation, and we look forward to that. So that's kind of, there you go. And as I was writing, my job is to do thank yous and then just a couple other things. But as I was thinking about that, I think I've summed up with everybody, except I saved the best for last, at least for me. You might have a different opinion, and you're welcome to that. Everybody's different. But there's a person that we have grown to love deeply for many reasons. And on Friday nights at 5:30, he's always there. And he can be tough. To dish out toughness when it's needed, but he also takes it back. In Israel, there's a cactus that is indigenous to Israel. It's known as a sabra. And people that are born in Israel, Israelis, native-born Israelis, call themselves sabras in honor of that cactus. The thing you got to know about the cactus is, like any cactus, it's prickly on the outside and sweet on the inside. And that reminds me of our Dave, right? So we want to thank him. And we love him. And if you can stay, then there's food and fellowship. And maybe if you can help for cleanup, we'll be boldest to ask that too. Next door. So the way is to go out the back doors, make a left and then another left. And everybody's invited. For some snacks and things like cake. Also, yes, we have an anniversary cake. Thanks to Dave and Terry for that. So the anniversary cake, as well as some other things that the group put together. So that's my job. I don't think I missed anything else other than the closing in our group. Whatever the topic has been, whatever that it is, it's just a reminder, as Missy said, the higher power, God, for those of us who have that common faith. It's so important. And the wrap up before we leave each other is to close with the Our Father. And so if you're able to stand, usually we do it this way. Who is the only one that can keep us sober? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory. Amen. Again, thank you for coming.